Hi everyone. I'm reading more Calling on Dragons by Patricia C. So this is chapter 4. It's for Storyteller Night. It's from your friend Allison. Thank you, Allison, for commissioning this from me. But this is not for Allison. This is for Storyteller Night. So no one else watch this. Okay, don't do that. Chapter 4, in which Morwen and Telemaine argue, surprise, and Killer discovers the perils of mixing cosmetics and magic. What does that mean? By the time Telemaine appeared in the front yard, Morwen had finished the sign and was cleaning a brush. He did a tidy transportation spell. Morwen had to admit, even if her own taste ran more to flying. The passage hadn't even ruffled his dark hair. He'd clearly come prepared. The many pockets of his open knee-length black vest were bulging, and so were the pouches that hung from his wide black belt. 7 magic rings glittered on his fingers, 3 on his left hand, 4 on his right. His bright blue eyes were alight with anticipation. "Well, it's about time," Aunt Ophelia said acidly as he walked up the front porch steps. "Well, hello to you, too," Telemaine said, nodding far more politely than he would have if he'd understood her comment. "There you are, Morwen. Where are these hypothetical wizards of yours? I bet he doesn't even know which one of us you are," Scorn said from the porch rail. "Hypothetical wizards, indeed." "What's that?" Fiddlesticks shouted from inside the house. "Fiddlesticks, I love you. Oh, my God." On the window ledge, Jasmine yawned, curling up her tongue and stretching her head back. Then she called back, "Telemaine's here." "Who's here?" Fiddlesticks poked his head around the edge of the door. "Telemaine! Chaos, Murgatroyd, Trouble, Telemaine's here." "Chaos and Trouble are watching that rabbit," said Miss Eliza, in a tone that indicated clearly that she would have liked very much to call it something else, but was far too polite to actually do so. "These cats." "If I knew where the wizards were, I wouldn't need your help," Morwen said to Telemaine. "The dead spots on the moss are about 20 minutes' walk from my back garden, if the forest hasn't moved them." 20 minutes? "Morwen, I don't have time. I'd have told you to transport straight there, but I don't think you've been to this place before, and there's no sense in taking chances. Besides, it'll only take 2 minutes by broomstick, even riding double and with an extra load." Telemaine shook his head. No, absolutely not. I have no intention of riding on that uncomfortable contraption of yours ever again. Once was quite enough." "Wimp," said Scorn. "You only think broomsticks are uncomfortable because you insist on riding astride." Owen said to Telemaine. "If you sit side saddle the way you're supposed to..." "No." Men. "Well, if you really want to hand carry a bucket of soapy water mixed with a little lemon juice on a 20-minute walk..." "What? Morwen, you didn't say anything about buckets." "Water?" Fiddlesticks sat up very straight, his nose twitching. "Buckets of water? With soap? Maybe I won't come with you this time either, Morwen." "Fiddlesticks, I can't deal with you." "I thought the buckets were obvious," Morwen told Telemaine. "If there are wizards around, I want to be able to get rid of them in a hurry. And the only way to do that, so far as anyone knew, was to dump a bucket of soapy water, mixed with a little lemon juice over the top of them. For some reason, this made them melt into a gooey puddle, and it usually took several days for them to put themselves together again. Cimmerian had discovered this method by accident, back when she was living with the dragon Kazul. "Soapy water," Telemaine muttered. "Buckets. I still say it's terribly inelegant." "If you'd finish working out a spell to do the same thing, the buckets wouldn't be necessary," Morwen pointed out. Telemaine flushed. "I've designed a prototype, but it requires the immediate accessibility of a target. It has therefore been impossible for me to run the necessary tests to ascertain its effectiveness." "What?" said Fiddlesticks. "He's invented a spell for melting wizards. But he can't tell whether it works because there aren't any wizards around to try it on," Miss Eliza said. "Oh, why couldn't he just say that?" "'Cause it's Telemaine. "Because that's how he is," said Aunt Ophelia. Literally the next sentence. "We still need buckets," Morwen said to Telemaine. "I haven't the slightest objection to your testing your new wizard melting spell on any wizards we run across, but I want to bring something that I know works in case your spell needs some adjusting." "Reasonable." Telemaine rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "But I still categorically refuse to travel on that broomstick of yours." "Morwen..." Even muffled by the front door, Trouble's tone was clearly far too casual, and when he strolled out into the porch, Morwen felt a strong twinge of misgiving. Every whisker dripped the kind of deliberate unconcern that usually meant he'd been living up to his name. Oh no. "Excuse me a moment, Telemaine," Morwen said. "What is it, Trouble?" "You know that rabbit you wanted us to watch?" Morwen's misgivings deepened. "Yes." "Well, he's kind of upset," Trouble said. "Murgatroyd thought I'd better come tell you." If Murgatroyd thought Morwen should be told about it, it was probably serious. Not urgent, though, or he'd have come himself at a dead run, and he didn't expect Morwen to be happy about it, or he wouldn't have sent Trouble. Morwen sighed. "What is Killer upset about?" "Oh, things. I wouldn't have bothered you if Murgatroyd hadn't insisted." "Things." Very descriptive. "Such a fuss about a rabbit," Aunt Ophelia sniffed. Trouble studied the front porch as if he were hoping to spot a fly. "Not exactly." "I see." Morwen turned to Telemaine. "I appear to be needed in the garden. You're welcome to come along." "Certainly." All the cats followed them except Jasmine, who had fallen asleep on the window ledge, and Jasper, who was presumably still napping under the porch. When they reached the garden, they found the grass inside the gate trampled flat, and a 6-foot donkey with a blotchy brown and white coat standing next to the vegetable patch. The donkey wore a mournful expression, and half a cabbage leaf was stuck to the side of his muzzle. The green cabbage directly in front of him was missing a large chunk from its left side. "Hi, Killer," Morwen said to the donkey. "I thought Killer was a rabbit," Telemaine said, frowning in mild puzzlement. "He was until he started eating my cabbage." Morwen eyed the donkey reprovingly. "He ate a cabbage?" Fiddlesticks said, horrified. "Why would he do that?" "I'm missing something." "I was hungry," said the donkey. His tail switched and he jumped, startled. "Humph," said Anophelia, "just what I expect from a rabbit." "Yes, you'd think anyone who would have more sense than to nibble on plants in a witch's garden," Miss Eliza said. "Oh, that's true. I thought the gray cat said it was all right, and it tasted very nice, almost spicy, and the crunch—" The donkey stopped as all the cats glared, and his ears drooped. I must have misunderstood. Actually, my guess is they told him to do it on purpose." Warren glanced around. Trouble was nowhere in sight. "I don't think you misunderstood him at all." She looked sternly at Chaos and Murgatroyd. "Why didn't you stop him?" "We got plenty of donkey cabbages," Chaos said, "when donkeys are nearly as stupid as rabbits, so it's not as if Killer lost anything by it." "I think it's a definite improvement," Murgatroyd said, nodding. "A 6-foot donkey doesn't look nearly as silly as a 6-foot rabbit," Antiphilia put in. 7 feet 11 inches, counting the ears," said the donkey, twitching them. "I always know how big I am." That's not the point," Morin told the cats. "You were left here to prevent any untoward happenings. This is an extremely untoward happening. I am seriously displeased." "And you know what that means," Scorn said. "No fish in the food bowl tonight." "No fish?" Fiddlesticks looked up at Morwen with large, distressed eyes. "Not even for me?" "I'm sorry about this, Killer," Morwen said. "Those cabbages aren't supposed to work on rabbits." She paused, considering. The red cabbages on the other side of the road were an antidote, but she wasn't sure she wanted to mention that. It was entirely possible that they wouldn't work, or that Killer would end up turning into a 12-foot tall rabbit, or something even more inconvenient. More inconvenient? "Can't you do anything?" the donkey said. "It's not that I mind being a donkey exactly, but I don't like what it did to my coat." "He is awfully blotchy," Scorn said. "Interesting," Telemaine said. "You say these plants aren't supposed to work on rabbits, Morwen, and this rabbit was already under the influence of a magnifying enchantment, so the layered interaction of the two magical energies produced a synergistic effect." Killer looked at Telemaine, and his ears twitched forward. "Is that why my coat is all funny?" "Highly unlikely," Telemaine said. "The two spells seem to affect primarily the parameters of form and stature rather than coloration." Morwen stared at the donkey. Suddenly her eyes narrowed. "Killer, do you dye your fur?" Well, actually, I thought so. That's what your problem is. Spells are hard on cosmetic changes. The dye job lasted through one spell, but now that you've been enchanted twice, it's wearing off." "Have rabbits dye their what?" "Oh, no," said Killer. "You mean if you turn me back into a rabbit, I'll look even worse?" "Probably," Morwen said. "And you won't be able to re-dye it until the residue of the spell wears off. That usually takes about 6 weeks. "How do you know all this?" Telemaine asked her. Morwen gave him a look. "Why do you think witches never color their hair?" This is terrible." Killer's ears waggled in distress. Several of the cats snickered. "I won't be able to hold up my head. This is awful. Can't you do anything?" "Not right now," Morwen said. "We have some wizard hunting to do, and if you're willing to help, you may have solved a little problem for us." Excuse me, "I don't mind being helpful," said Killer. "What problem?" Morwen turned to Telemaine. "You can ride him instead of the broomstick. He knows how to find the clover patch, and at that size he ought to move fairly quickly. I'll take the broomstick and bucket and meet you there. And you can study the interaction of the size and shape-changing spells on the way." Oh, boy. Less than 10 minutes later, Morwen, Telemaine, and Killer met at the half-eaten patch of clover. As Morwen landed her broomstick, with some care so as not to spill the bucket she'd hung on the front end, Scorn and Fiddlesticks slid out of the bushes and sat down at the foot of the nearest tree. The two cats wore identical smug expressions. "What are you doing here?" Morwen said. "We all discussed it." "Fucking cats. "And decided you might need help," Scorn replied. "Aunt Ophelia and Miss Eliza came last time. Trouble and Murgatroyd and Chaos were in disgrace because of the cabbages, and Jasmine didn't want to be bothered, so it came down to the 3 of us." "3 of you?" "Jasper's around somewhere." "I came because I'm very brave," Fiddlesticks announced. He rose and sauntered over to the clover patch. "Don't you think I'm brave, Morwen? What's all this prickly stuff?" He sniffed at the bare stalks on the eaten portion of the patch. "That's Killer's clover patch," Morwen said. "Don't eat any of it." "Eat it?" Fiddlesticks looked up, green gold eyes wide. "Why would I eat it? It's some kind of plant." "We know," Scorn said, "Shut up." Telemaine slid down from Killer's back, stepped quickly to one side, and shook himself as if to check that everything still worked. Then he walked over to Morwen. With a glance over one shoulder to make sure Killer was out of hearing distance, he said in a low voice, "Morwen, this is absolutely the last time I agree to one of your ideas. That beast has the gait that would rattle the teeth out of a troll." "It's not my fault," Killer said. "I'm supposed to be a rabbit." Telemaine looked startled, then chagrined. "You forgot how long his ears are," Morwen said. "Never mind. The tracks I told you about are over here." She led the way to the cluster of brown pencil-sized holes at the far side of the clover patch. Wow, I messed up that sentence, sorry. When he saw them, Telemaine immediately lost interest in the rest of his surroundings. "Fascinating," he murmured. He pulled something that looked like a bright metal tube in a wire cage from one of his pockets and began twisting and pulling and unfolding. In less than 2 minutes, he held a long telescope attached to 3 long, spidery legs. He jabbed the legs into the moss and peered through the end of the telescope. "Absolutely fascinating. The residual energy displays the characteristic spiral, but its concentration—" "Tell me about it when you decide what it is," Morwen said. She was in no mood for one of Telemaine's long digressions into magical theory, even if she was one of the few people who actually understood most of what he said. Besides, listening only encouraged him. Telemaine peered through his telescope again, then pulled out several other peculiar instruments and poked at the holes. Finally, he looked up. "Where's the other one?" "Other one?" Morwen said. Even when he was being simple, Telemaine didn't seem to be able to make himself clear. "The full-sized, splotch. I believe you said there was one?" Trouble found it, leaving Killer to nibble disconsolately at the moss, and the cats to wander as they pleased. Morwen led Telemaine to the 2-inch circle of brown moss. "There. This is really amazing. Look here, Morwen. Along the perimeter, there's no regeneration occurring at all, and—" "Yes, of course," Morwen interrupted, "but all I want to know is it wizards?" "Oh, certainly. That's what I was saying," Telemaine replied with maddening innocence, "and it looks as if they figured out how to evade the enchantment the king and I worked out. You were quite right to call me." "Quite right," Scorn said with considerable indignation. "That self-centered, conceited idiot. Of course you were quite right. Magicians. Bah!" Tail stiff with disapproval, she stalked off. "Exactly," said Morwen. "Now what was that bit about that enchantment of yours?" "Of mine and the king's." Telemaine was a stickler for accuracy, even when it meant sharing the credit for a major magical achievement. He pointed at the brown spot in front of him, then waved back to the clover patch. "None of these should be here." "Well, obviously wizards aren't supposed to come into the enchanted forest and eat—" Morwen stopped short. "That isn't what you mean." "Very well. Explain what you did mean, and none of your jargon. I'm too much on my mind already without trying to unravel your sentences." Telemaine looked hurt. "I'm only trying to be precise. Right now, I'll be quite content with fast and sloppy. Now, why shouldn't there be any dead patches in the moss?" "Because the spell Mendenbar and I worked out should repair them as soon as they're made," Telemaine said carefully. "As long as the spell is working, the absorptive properties of the wizard staff should be balanced immediately by the recirculation of—" "Telemaine!" "I'm trying," Telemaine said in a plaintive tone. "There isn't just any other way to say it." "No." Morwen thought for a minute. "How about this? When a wizard staff sucks up magic from the forest, your spell sucks it back, and it works so fast that the moss shouldn't die this way." "Or it should regenerate," Telemaine said, nodding. "This is obviously not done either. Can you tell how they did it?" "Not without an examination of the primary linkages." Telemaine frowned down at the dead moss. "If something has damaged one of them, it might account—" A loud cat squall erupted from behind a nearby bush, followed by a high shriek. Morwen started forward, but before she had taken 2 steps, Fiddlesticks came trotting around the left side of the bush. He held his head very high, and his tail was a long round exclamation mark. Dangling from his mouth by a bunched-up wad of blue and brown wizard's robes was a man about 6 inches tall. Okay, so it is miniature wizards? Miniature wizards? What the hell? Okay, I'm going to read more because I need to.